On today's Newsmakers, Chris Martin has sparked controversy. He's, of course, the frontman for Coldplay over a conversation he had surrounding two fans on stage. Now, these fans were from Israel, and what he had to say sparked a lot of conversation, raised some eyebrows, and I'm joined today by Trey Goins-Phillips to break it all down. Here is our conversation.
All right, so Coldplay, they got themselves in a little bit of hot water recently. They had a concert at Wembley Stadium, and Chris Martin, the lead singer, he invited two fans onto stage. Their names were Avia and Tal. Turns out when he asked where they were from, they said that they're Israeli. They're here from Israel, or were there for Israel for the concert. And after they revealed that they're from Israel, Chris told the crowd, oh, they're from Israel. There were a lot of cheers, but then there were also some audible boos that people heard. And then it kind of descended into chaos from there, Billy. Chris kind of tried to, I guess he was trying to make people feel better when he said, oh, I love humans from everywhere. It doesn't matter. We're treating people equally as human beings on Earth. But then he said, randomly, I also want to welcome the people from Palestine. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a weird take. What are your thoughts?
I mean, there's so many thoughts here. The first thing is when people are booing people because of the country they come from and who they are and their heritage and their ethnicity even, perhaps the best thing to do is to tell people, hey, we don't boo people for that. Like, that would be a good starting point, right? That didn't happen. And I can give him a little bit of grace that he was probably shocked and confused. And he was probably in his own way trying to maybe abate some of that chaos. But I don't know, first of all, the people in the audience, why are we booing over that? That's bizarre. Right. But when he said, I'm grateful that you're here as humans and I'm treating you as equal humans on Earth, regardless of where you come from or don't come from, I was like, okay, he's trying to do it felt like he's trying to, it's super awkward. It's worded weird. He's trying to say like, hey, we don't boo you. Maybe that was his way of saying it. But then he follows it up and he's like, although it's controversial, maybe I also want to welcome people in the audience from Palestine. And it's like, wait, what? It's just incredibly awkward and an overcorrection that actually comes off the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I thought the Earth reference was weird, as if we also have people from Mars who are attending concerts. So that was bizarre. And then also when he starts calling out a country, well, he only calls out one country, right? He calls out, one people group. He calls out Palestine. I think, or are we just going to go around the world and we're going to say, we also would like to welcome the Germans and the Americans who are here for the concert. So I thought that was, as you said, Billy, completely an overcorrection. And I think we talked a little bit about this actually on the Quick Start podcast. Something that I think is odd is, as a society, we've been down this road before where somebody announcing like their ethnicity or their heritage, we have turned that into a divisive political statement in the past. I mean, even thinking about the United States, we've had segregation laws. We've mistreated people based on the color of their skin in our past. And that is certainly not a road we want to go down again. And this kind of smacks of that. I'm not saying that is what Chris Martin was attempting to do. I think it's very plausible, as you said, that he was trying to do the right thing and just wasn't really sure how to handle it. But it's a sad statement on our culture that we've created an atmosphere where somebody like Chris Martin feels the need to bend over backwards and to kind of play gymnastics to say something when all somebody did was say, hey, this is my ethnicity, this is my heritage.
Well, and the fact that anti-Israel and anti-Israel sentiment and anti-Semitism are raging so much around the world that people can't just say they're from Israel without getting booed, and then without somebody like Chris Martin feeling as though they have to qualify everything they're saying to, like you would never say, oh, you're from America. Well, this might be controversial, but I want to welcome the Canadians too. Like it just isn't something you would do. So the fact that the tensions are so high that people feel the need to do any of this, how awkward for these two girls who are there from Israel, that they can't just be people at a concert from Israel, that it has to be this big thing. Also, like Chris Martin really needs to try to avoid controversy. This man has really struggled to do that of late.
Yeah. Look, I think being of Jewish or Israeli heritage or ethnicity, like or religiously, if you're Jewish, just taking up space is not a problem. But it seems like that is the place that we find ourselves in, and that's scary, especially in the United States, where we're seeing this burgeoning anti-Semitism that's been there on the left, but it's starting to grow even more so on the on the far fringe right. And we're seeing a lot of that, coming at different angles in different ways. And I think that this just kind of pours fuel on that fire of anti-Semitism. And I know, Billy, you recently actually spoke with a group that's trying to combat some of that. So tell us a little bit about that group.
Yeah, it's Passages Israel, and their goal is to really equip young Christians on campuses to not only pinpoint anti-Semitism, but to fight back against it. They do trips to Israel with young people to show them what it's really like. They have a conference in DC, Passages DC Experience, where they essentially take those young people, put them in front of speakers like former Vice President Mike Pence and others who can really educate them about Israel and really debunk some of the media narrative around Israel. Again, I'm grateful for groups like that because I can't believe we're at a point where we have to have a news story like this and then we have to talk about it and report on it because it's so bizarre that human beings on Earth can't communicate in a way that feels normal when two people come up on a stage. So, I want to give the benefit of the doubt to him, again, just going back to that, because I do think we don't know what was in his heart. He was probably shocked by the booing that he heard and was trying to, again, qualify it. But we need to tell people, I feel like we have to be comfortable saying this is wrong. Don't do that. Move on. And that's really the best way to handle this sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. I think immediately, obviously, I'm not a superstar anywhere near the level. I'm not a superstar at all, but I'm never going to be on a stage the size of Chris Martin. So I know that there is just a lot going on in your brain. There's a lot of pressure in the moment to handle something in real time. But for sure, the right thing to do is call out the people booing somebody for just being from Israel. That is a ridiculous thing to be booing somebody about. But to your point with what you're talking about with Passages, I think the most important thing that we can do to combat anti-Semitism is arm people with knowledge and information. We live in an age where everything is accessible at our fingertips. We have museums, and more than museums, we have the internet where we can get all kinds of information. And yet in 2025, there are people who are denying the Holocaust even happened. So we can go back to Bible times and trace all the way to 2025 and see the ways that the Jewish people have been abused and persecuted against and mistreated. So these are very real issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad that at CBN News, we have a platform where we can give voice to that, not to beat somebody over the head. I don't want to, like you said, I want to give Chris Martin the benefit of the doubt there. But the issue itself, the larger issue itself, is something that we ought to be talking about. So hopefully we'll learn more about this, and maybe Chris Martin will come out and say a little bit more and kind of clarify his views on this issue. But any final thoughts, Billy?
Yeah, that's my hope. I hope he does do that. And it would be great to hear that. And again, we want to be fair to people, but we have to address it because it's just so bizarre. And a lot of other outlets are addressing it as well. And I'm grateful for CBN that we can have conversations like this and educate people on the truth around Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Billy, for being here to break this one down.
Thank you. That's all for today's Newsmakers. Make sure you head on over to the CBN News YouTube channel and cbnnews.com for more of the news you need to read. We'll see you again tomorrow.